Welcome to Feed Yourself Lesson 12. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use one of the most effective Bible study tools available, and that is a concordance. In 2 Timothy 4:13, Paul said, "When you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas, and my scrolls, especially the parchments." Paul was a man who liked to study the Word of God, and we need to be students who study the Word of God as well. After the Bible, a good concordance is the best Bible study tool. An exhaustive concordance will list every word used in the Bible in alphabetical order. If you're looking for a verse and only remember a few words, you can find that verse. If you would like to see all the verses that deal with a specific topic, you look up the words associated with that topic. And we're going to learn how to use both an exhaustive physical concordance and a free online version. Both have their advantages. The Bible study techniques that we will study in future lessons will use the skills you learn here, so be sure to understand this lesson well. When trying to find a verse, remember as many words as possible and then begin by using the least popular word. For example, let's say that we want to find out who said God is light. If we look up the word God, we find 4,125 references in the King James Version, the vast majority of which have nothing to do with what we're trying to find. If we look up the word light, we find 309 references. Well, that's a little bit better, but it's still a lot of references to go through. Now, if we figure that this verse is in the New Testament, we're now down to 94 references to check, and that's getting better. Now, of course, if we're using a computer Bible search program instead of a physical concordance, we can type in the entire phrase, God is light, and come up with 13 references. If we put our search term in quotation marks, we're telling the program that we want an exact match with those words in that order. We have then limited our references down to one and found the verse that we're looking for. There is only one place in the Bible where it specifically says, God is light, and that is in 1 John 1:5. Now, for this lesson, I will use Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. For those who use the King James Version, this is a remarkable concordance. You can discover a wealth of information about the original Hebrew and Greek words without knowing Hebrew or Greek. It's not hard once you know how. For those who do not use the King James, the easiest way to use the features of the Strong's Concordance and complete this lesson is to look up the verse in your version and then look it up again in the King James Version and see which words are used in the King James. A good way to do this is with a Bible search program like BibleGateway.com, which we've used earlier. You can search for your words in whatever version you're used to, and then, after you found them, with a switch of a button, you can switch it to the King James Version and find out the words used there. You will then have the word that you need for the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. So let's start with how the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance works. Then we'll look at the practical applications. If you don't have one, don't rush out and buy one unless you have extra money and like physical books like me. I mean, it would be a good book to have, but it's not essential because I'm going to show you how to find a free version on your computer. In the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, you will see that every word has a reference, a short phrase to help identify the verse, and a number. If you have a physical copy of the Strong's Concordance, look up the word light and find 1 John 1:5. You will notice that every page has the first and last word on that page, and that helps you find the words that you're looking for. When you find the entry, you should see 1 John or 1 Jo 1:5, declaring to you that God is El 54:57. The 1 Jo 1:5 is, of course, the reference, 1 John, where you would look up the entire verse. Declaring to you that God is El is the phrase to help you identify the verse. Looking at the phrase will give you a good idea if this is the verse that you're looking for without having to go and look up the reference. The L stands for light, which is the word you're looking up, so there's no need to repeat it in the phrase. They conserve space as much as possible, obviously. 5457 is the number that relates to the Greek word which is translated light in this verse. It is in italics to show that it is a Greek word, in other words, a New Testament word. The Hebrew word numbers from the Old Testament are in regular print, so you can quickly identify which words are Hebrew and which words are Greek. If you have a copy of the Strong's Concordance before you, quickly scan the numbers for the other verses with light in the New Testament. You will discover that there are about 10 different Greek words that have been translated as light. Now let's go one step further. In the back of the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, there are two sections. One section is for Hebrew words and one section is for Greek words. Now, here's a good hint for you. If you look up a word and the definition doesn't make sense, like I've done many times, make sure you're in the right section. It is easy to get mixed up and look up a Greek word in the Hebrew section, and of course, that makes no sense. Since our number 5457 is in italics, we know it's a Greek word, so we make sure that we're in the Greek section in the back of the book. To find the Greek word, we simply find the number in the Greek section, and this is what you would see. 5457, followed by the word as it is spelled in Greek, then PHOE, then FOCE, and you can see the whole thing there. I won't try to read it all because there's a lot of abbreviations. Just look at it carefully. So how do we understand this entry? First, we have the identifying number 5457. Second, as I said, we have the word as it's spelled in the Greek language. Third, we have how the word would be spelled in English, called a transliteration. Fourth, we have the phonetic key, in other words, how the word would be pronounced in English. Fifth, we have where the word comes from. For example, in this example, it was developed from an obsolete Greek word, which meant to shine or make manifest, especially by rays. A word study, as we'll teach you about later, would include the related words identified with the numbers 5316 and 5346. Then sixth, the definition is luminousness in its widest possible sense. It can be used in natural or artificial light. It can be used in an abstract sense or a concrete sense. It may also be literal or figurative. So this word has a wide variety of applications. And then finally, after the dash comes all the ways that this word is translated in the King James Version. In this case, it's sometimes translated as fire and sometimes as light. This means that if we want to find other verses which contain this same Greek word, we would have to look up both fire and light and search for the number 5457. Sometimes you'll also see a plus sign, and this means that more than one word was combined to make the English word. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the online version. I'm using BibleStudyTools.com, although there are other websites that have an exhaustive concordance. So up at the top, you'll see a search bar. We type in the word that we want to look for. In this case, we're going to look for light. If we spell it correctly, it helps. And then we just hit search. And you can see right here that there's 235 results for this word. And it doesn't appear to me that they come up in any particular order. And that's a lot of verses to search through to find the one that says God is light. So if we come back up here and we type in God is light and then do a search, we come up with 8 results. And that's a whole lot better. So we scroll down till we find the one that we're looking for, 1 John 1:5. We click on the reference here, and then we come up with the verse, and any of these we come up with the verse here. Any of these words in blue can be clicked on to be taken to the Strong's Greek index. So we'll click on the word light. And if you have a pop-up like I do, you'll have a blocker. You'll have to click that off before it will come up. And again, you'll see we have a lot of the information that we had in the physical Strong's Concordance. In addition to what we saw in the regular concordance, you can see expanded definitions. You can click on the speaker to hear what the word sounds like.
Force.
And then, so we have a lot of definitions in here. We have metaphors that the word can be used as. If we keep scrolling down here, we'll see how many times it's used in the King James Version. It's used 70 times. It will also give us a list of the books and how many times it's used in each particular book. You can see, for example, in 1 John, this word for light is used 5 times. You can see the most popular book to use it is the Gospel of John at 16 times. And if you click on one of these, it will take you to that book and give you every reference that you have there. So let's just go back to our page right here. Something I just wanted to point out, you see that the King James uses this word 70 times, but if you come down here, you only have 59. And that's because some verses use the word more than once. This gives you the total amount of verses that use it. This is the total amount of times that it's used. You can also see that it's translated light 68 times and it's translated fire 2 times. I also wanted to give you just a word of caution here. Just because a word can be translated in a certain way, and sometimes just like an English word, you have many different definitions for a word, and just because it can be translated that way doesn't mean that you're free to choose any definition that you like. You have to look at the context to see what definition fits with the context. Also helpful in doing this is looking up the verse in several different versions of the Bible and seeing how different scholars translated the word to get an overall view of what definition works best in that verse. So that should give you a basic idea on how to use a Strong's Concordance, both the physical concordance and the online concordance. Okay, so for your project for week 12, I want you to practice using the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. Now, these assignments are based on the internet version. If you're using a physical concordance, then simply record the following information about each word. Is it Hebrew or Greek? What's the word number? What's the definition? And list the different ways that the word is translated. So for day 1, search for the Lord is my shepherd and select Psalm 23, verse 1. Record the following information for the words Lord, shepherd, and want. Record the definition, the number of times the word is used, the different words which are used to translate it, how it is translated most often, and what part of speech it is. Write down anything that you've learned about the verse that you did not know before. On days 2 to 6, on each day, select one verse from the book that you did your book survey on and look up 2 or 3 words from that verse, recording the same information that you did on day 1. Write down anything that you learned about that verse that you did not know before. On day 7, select a verse from the Old Testament, any verse you want, and do the same thing. And then, of course, continue with your daily reading program. May the peace and grace of Jesus be yours.